Have I told you guys about my favorite series of children's books that has ever come out that I use both for psychotherapy and also in parenting? Hi, I'm Dr. Robin Koslowitz. I'm a clinical psychologist, a post-traumatic parent, and the author of the forthcoming book, Post-Traumatic Parenting, where we learn to give our kids the healthy childhood we never had. Welcome. If you like this kind of content, please click below and subscribe. So my absolute favorite kids book series that came out recently is the Way Past series by Haley Edelman. And in this series, it's her Great Big Feelings series. It's a whole bunch of emotion books that really run the spectrum of kids' emotions, and they're so cute. Way Past Sorry, Way Past Embarrassed, Way Past Worried, Way Past Sad, Way Past Jealous, Way Past Mad, Way Past Afraid, Way Past Lonely. These books really help children understand their emotions, and especially it's so validating because it helps them understand when their emotions get really, really, really big. When they're not just mad, they're way past mad, and way past sad, and way past jealous, way past lonely. You can take these books and use them in so many ways. First of all, they're great stories. They're very readable. The characters are super engaging. The way it's drawn and just the way it's illustrated and the way the scenes in the book look are just extremely engaging for kids. So great stories. So that is definitely, so Haley, great job with that. That was a fantastic, they're just good books. On top of that, they're a really great way into a conversation with a child about what do you do when you're feeling way past mad? What do you do when you're feeling way past lonely or way past jealous? You'd be very surprised how sometimes a conversation starter like this, a book like this, can open up the door to your child telling you a story that you've never heard before, something that you never knew about, that you never even knew to ask about. So when you say, way past jealous, and the child says, yeah, I was working so hard in art class and my picture just wasn't coming out good. It just wasn't. And then my friend just drew something. It took her 2 seconds flat and it was gorgeous. And everybody was oohing and aahing and I was so jealous. You would never have known that story unless you opened up the door to hearing it with a book like this. And the important thing about knowing our children's stories is, as parents, we are not the writers of our children's stories. It's not our job to control their lives, to set up situations so that they'll never feel jealous or sad or angry or lonely, right? We are not the entertainment director making sure that they have friends 24/7. We are not the art teacher making sure that their picture is always the prettiest in the class. We're not the gymnastics coach. We're not the playground monitor. We're not the person, the Emily Post, who goes and tells them that even if they're jealous, they still have to be nice to their friends. That's not our job as their parent. We're not the writer. But what we can be is the editor of our children's stories. So when our child comes home and says, I was working so hard on my picture, and then my friend, she just scribbled a few little scribbles and it came out gorgeous and everyone was oohing and aahing. And then my teacher said, she worked so hard and she didn't. I worked hard. And my teacher just said, try harder next time. And I felt jealous. We can say, I am hearing about somebody who has something called perseverance. You know what perseverance is? Perseverance means you try and you try and you try, even when it doesn't work out. I am not hearing the story of Emily who is bad at math, Emily who is bad at art. I am hearing the story of Emily who tried really, really, really hard and kept trying even when it didn't come out good and is now asking for some help. That's the story I'm hearing. Angela Duckworth says that grit, her biggest psychological capacity that lets kids get through life and really succeed, comes from two things. It's a mix of passion and perseverance. So when a kid tells me they persevered and failed, I'm going to tell them you persevered, and perseverance is what gets people far in life. Your friend has art talent. That's lovely. But you have perseverance. That's a character skill. That's something that you can always work on and make better and better and better. And sure, if you want to learn art, we can get you art lessons, but you persevered. That's what's important. You wouldn't have known that story had you not read a book like this. You wouldn't know about the time nobody wanted to sit with your son at lunch unless you read a book like Way Past Lonely. So having these books also gives children an emotional vocabulary. We want children to move beyond what they have in toddlerhood, where they basically have two emotions, yum and yuck, right? And that's basically what they know. Something's either good or it's bad. That's how very small children think. I want more of the good. I want to stay away from the bad. When we give children an emotional vocabulary, we give them the ability to really talk about their emotions to us and with us, and then they can be very specific. There's a difference, for example, between envy and jealousy. Envy is when I want what the other person has got. Jealousy is when someone's threatening something that I have. The more information that I have about things like that, when I know how to differentiate between sadness and loneliness, that's really important. And these books, and like I said, I love this little rainbow of how the covers work. These books are so well written and so good at opening up that conversation. My personal own kids ask for them as bedtime stories all the time. My middle schooler today was reading them because they're sitting around our house and I want them there so that we can have conversation starters. Every one of the therapists in my practice, Center for Psychological Growth, has this book series in their office because it's right there for kids to talk to. So if you're a therapist, this is a great book, but this is exactly how I would use a book like this as a therapist. I would read the story, get engaged in the story, and then ask, have you ever felt sad? Have you ever felt lonely? And really building that emotional vocabulary with children. Also, sometimes some kids don't always know that emotions are things we talk about. Emotions are things we get help with. Emotions are things that we don't have to just sit with. In these books, the children don't just sit with their emotions. They get help, maybe from a trusted adult, maybe from a friend, maybe from themselves and changing their perspective. But they don't just sit there and stew in their emotions. They do something with their emotions. So sometimes showing a child that, yeah, we talk about our feelings. It's normal. Kids like me talk about their feelings can be super, super helpful. It's also useful to have books like this as barometers around your house. So not just as the occasional bedtime story, but noticing when a child wants to read an emotionally valenced book. If my kid wants to read Way Past Sad a lot, I want to ask questions about sadness. My kid's reading Way Past Mad a lot. I want to know, have you been feeling particularly frustrated lately? Is something going on? This gives me an opening to ask these questions and to explore the concept and also explore the idea that every emotion has a positive side and a negative side at the same time. For example, sadness, while at the one side it tells us about something that we're missing, it tells us about something that we do want, it also tells us what we value. So we want to know the two sides of the emotion. Anger does sometimes cause us to engage in destructive, upsetting acts, but anger also gives us the energy to solve a problem, and it gives us the energy to set a boundary. So when we know that we have both of these things, then we know that our children can talk to us because it's not the emotion that's the problem. That you get mad is not the problem. The problem is what you decide to do with your anger, and that we can have a conversation about. There are better and worse uses of anger. There are better and worse uses of sadness. There are better and worse ways to deal with loneliness. Let's talk about that. You are not a bad person because you get mad. Very often, I'll say to a kid in therapy, so what happened in that story? What have we learned from that story? I shouldn't have gotten so mad. You got mad because somebody violated your boundaries. You can get mad. Hitting him was a problem. That you got mad? Nothing wrong with that. You're allowed to get mad. He should not have grabbed your test paper and looked at your mark without your permission. That was not okay. That you hit him? Yeah, that's a problem. That part's the problem. That you got angry though, that's not the problem. Emotions are never the problem because we don't solve emotions. We can dissipate emotions, we can handle emotions, we can talk to our emotions, we can ask our emotions, we can look at emotions as messengers coming to give us information about the world, and we can ask our emotions, what did you come to tell me today? But emotions themselves are never the problem. If you're a post-traumatic parent and as a child you were taught to push down and stifle and treat your emotions as the enemy, and you know you want to parent differently, you know there's a better way, you're well aware of that, but you don't quite know what that better way is, this is that better way. By talking to kids about their emotions, reading them stories about their emotions, talking them through emotions, playing games about emotions. I love this one. That is how we help children be comfortable with their emotions. Very often as post-traumatic parents, we say, no one did this for me. I don't want my kid to go through what I did. I see my kid getting angry the way I did or being sad the way I was, and I don't know how to help them. And now it's happening again, and our trauma just takes fire and says, oh no, it's happening again, and I can't stop it, and it's happening to my kid. The difference is your kid has you, and you know just how to work with your emotions. You are going to help them through it. It's not the trauma that traumatized you. It's being alone with it. If your child is not alone in coping with their big emotions, then they're going to feel supported. And that means they won't be traumatized. They might be challenged, but not traumatized. If you like this video, if this kind of content speaks to you, you're a post-traumatic parent who wants to learn how to give their children the healthy childhood that they never had, welcome. You belong here. Please click the subscribe button below so you never miss another episode. You can also find us on Instagram at Dr. Kozlowitz Psychology. That's where the post-traumatic parenting community hangs out. We have a Facebook group. We have a subscription on Instagram, all sorts of ways that you can interact with the community. So if you wish you could ask me a direct question, there's a way to do that on Instagram. There's also the Post-Traumatic Parenting Podcast available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, the Post-Traumatic Parenting book is forthcoming. Till next time, thank you.